Captain Elias Mercer had always considered himself an anomaly, even before he became a cosmic relic. In the year 2147, humanity's golden age of space exploration, he had been among the elite, a dreamer with a steel resolve, chosen to command the Vanguard Horizon, Earth's most ambitious deep space vessel. His mission, to navigate uncharted realms of the Andromeda sector, seeking planets ripe for colonization. But no amount of training could prepare him for the silent eternity that followed the catastrophic failure of the ship's quantum drive. Suspended in the merciless void, Mercer's cryopod became both his prison and salvation. A last-ditch protocol activated moments before disaster struck, preserving him in stasis as the horizon spiraled into the gravitational limbo of a rogue black hole. Centuries passed unnoticed, time folding in on itself as stars burned and died. The pod, an ark of obsolete technology, drifted aimlessly until it was nothing more than a forgotten speck amid the endless expanse. Unbeknownst to Mercer, the universe beyond had moved on. Humanity's flame had dimmed, its colonies scattered and fragmented. In their place, new civilizations rose, alien empires born from the ashes of distant supernovas. Among them was the Cavex Dominion, a race of crystalline beings whose intricate lattice bodies refracted light in mesmerizing spectra. Their ships, organic and pulsating, prowled the cosmos in search of artifacts from the lost epochs. On an otherwise unremarkable day, Cavex Scout Rel, a young archivist with a penchant for anomalies, detected an object of peculiar density on the fringe of an abandoned star system. Curiosity, that ancient catalyst, compelled her to investigate. As her vessel approached the derelict pod, its surface pockmarked with micrometeorite scars, she felt a pang of something she could not name. An instinct, perhaps, or the faint echo of a story waiting to be told. Inside the pod, Mercer's face lay untouched by time, his expression serene beneath the frost-glazed glass. To Rel, he was a relic unlike any she had encountered, a being from an era predating her species' recorded history. Her crystalline fingertips brushed the pod's surface, activating a dormant interface. Data fragments flickered to life, displaying a language she did not understand but found hauntingly poetic. For Mercer, the awakening was a jarring rupture. The cryopod's systems had long degraded, and its revival sequence stuttered like a faltering heartbeat. When his eyes finally opened, the first thing he saw was Rel's refracted form, a kaleidoscope of light and shadow that defied comprehension. Panic surged through him, but it was dulled by the disorientation of centuries spent dreaming of Earth. Where? His voice was a rasp, unfamiliar even to himself. The word hung in the air, unanswered. Rel's melodic tones resonated within the pod, a symphony of crystalline vibrations. "You are not alone," she said, her translation device struggling to bridge the chasm between their languages. "You are from the befores." Mercer's mind grasped at fragments of memory, the mission, the disaster, the endless void. He steadied his breath, focusing on the alien before him. Despite her otherworldly appearance, there was something profoundly familiar in her intent gaze. She was trying to understand him, just as he struggled to comprehend her. The realization struck him like a solar flare. He was a ghost, a relic of humanity's past, now faced with the unimaginable. This alien, she was his first contact, and perhaps his only hope of reconnecting with a universe that had long forgotten him. Elias Mercer's breath caught in his chest as he stumbled out of the pod. His legs trembled, unused to movement after centuries of stasis. The air inside Rel's ship was thinner than what he remembered from Earth, tinged with an acrid metallic scent. Each step felt like a trial, and every sound, the hum of alien machinery, the crystalline resonance of Rel's speech, amplified the foreignness of his situation. But Mercer's mind, ever the resolute navigator, clung to purpose. Survival demanded clarity. Rel watched him with an intensity that bordered on reverence. To her, Mercer's very existence was a paradox. The Kavek's Dominion's archives spoke of ancient explorers, but to encounter one alive, it was as if a myth had materialized before her. Yet, she could not dwell on the marvel of discovery for long. The Dominion's laws were clear. Any artifact of significant value was to be transported immediately to the central archives for analysis. Mercer, as an artifact, was no exception. "You must come with me," Rel said, her translation device filtering the crystalline tones of her voice. "The Council will decide your fate." Mercer's jaw tightened. The idea of being paraded before some alien council like a curiosity filled him with dread. "Decide my fate," he echoed, his voice sharp despite its hoarseness. "I'm not some trinket for your people to study." Rel hesitated, her multifaceted eyes refracting light as if weighing his words. "You misunderstand. I cannot leave you here. My people must know of you. It is our way." Mercer's survival instincts kicked in, his mind racing through options. He didn't trust this alien, not yet. For all he knew, council was a euphemism for some sort of scientific dissection. He had no weapons, no tools, and no knowledge of the ship's layout. But he did have one advantage: her curiosity. If he could stall, perhaps he could learn more about her and the situation. "Before you take me anywhere," he said, steadying himself against a pod, "at least tell me what's going on. Where am I? What happened to Earth?" Rel's crystalline structure pulsed faintly, a Kavek's expression of uncertainty. She gestured to a nearby console, and holographic projections filled the space between them. Star maps unfurled in intricate detail, displaying systems Mercer had never seen before. One section of the map, however, was marked by a jagged void, a cluster of dead or uninhabitable systems. "Earth," Rel said, pointing to the void. "Gone." The systems near it collapsed. Mercer's stomach churned. He leaned closer to the hologram, searching for any sign of familiarity. The Sol system, the colonies, even the nearest trade routes, all were absent. Collapsed. What does that mean? Well, catastrophe. Rel tilted her head, her crystalline body shifting in a way that suggested discomfort. Time. Decay. The stars burned too fast. Your kind vanished. The weight of her words crushed him. Humanity, the sprawling, ambitious civilization he had once served, was gone. The enormity of it left him reeling. But despair was a luxury he could not afford. He turned his focus to Rel, noting the subtle hesitations in her speech. She wasn't telling him everything. "What aren't you saying?" Mercer pressed, his voice hardening. Before she could answer, the ship shuddered violently. Rel's form flared with light as she steadied herself. "We are not alone," she said, her tone sharp with alarm. She moved to the console, her hands a blur of crystalline movements as she activated external sensors. The display revealed a hulking vessel bearing down on them, its design angular and predatory. Mercer's gut twisted. Even without knowing the specific design, he recognized the universal language of aggression. The ship's weapons systems glowed ominously, charging for an attack. "Who are they?" Mercer asked, his pulse quickening. Rel's voice was grim. "Scavengers. They seek what we carry. What do we do?" Mercer's hands clenched into fists, his body instinctively readying for a fight he couldn't possibly win. Rel's gaze flickered to him, and for a moment he thought he saw regret in her crystalline depths. "We run," she said, her fingers flying across the controls. The ship lurched forward, engines roaring to life. But the scavenger vessel was faster. As the first volley of plasma bolts streaked toward them, Mercer braced himself, his mind teetering between terror and resolve. The conflict was no longer abstract. Survival was now a matter of seconds. The ship shuddered violently as another barrage of plasma bolts grazed its shields. Lights flickered erratically in the dim interior, and the air filled with a high-pitched hum that set Mercer's teeth on edge. Rel's crystalline form pulsed with urgency as she manipulated the controls, her movements a blur of precision and desperation. "Shields failing," she said, her voice taut. "They will overtake us." Mercer clung to the edge of the console for balance, his mind racing. He was no stranger to high-stakes emergencies, but this was a level of chaos he had never experienced. The ship's alien technology was incomprehensible to him, its systems a cascade of lights and sounds that defied his understanding. Still, he couldn't stand idly by while death closed in around them. "There has to be another option," he said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Weapons. Countermeasures." Rel's gaze flickered toward him, her eyes fracturing the ambient light. "This is not a warship. We are vulnerable." The ship lurched as another impact rocked its hull, and Mercer felt a surge of frustration. Vulnerability wasn't an option. Not now. His mind flashed back to his training, to the countless simulations where improvisation had been the key to survival. If the ship wasn't equipped for combat, they'd have to rely on ingenuity. "What about the environment?" he asked, scanning the holographic map of the surrounding space. "Is there anything nearby we can use? Asteroids, debris fields, anything to give us cover?" Rel hesitated, then activated a secondary display. A cluster of jagged objects appeared on the map, their irregular shapes orbiting a dying star. "The Veil of Shards," she said. "A graveyard of ancient vessels. It is unstable." "Unstable is better than dead," Mercer said firmly. "Can you get us there?" Her crystalline hands danced over the controls, and the ship veered sharply toward the field. The scavenger vessel followed, its weapons firing relentlessly. As they approached the veil, the debris field became visible through the viewport, a chaotic maze of twisted metal and fractured hulls, illuminated by the sickly light of the dying star. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. "Hold on," Rel warned, her voice vibrating with tension. The ship plunged into the field, weaving between the jagged remnants of long-dead vessels. Mercer's grip tightened as they narrowly avoided a massive shard of metal that spun past them, its edges glinting with lethal intent. The scavenger ship hesitated at the edge of the field, its pilots clearly weighing the risk of pursuit. "They're falling back," Mercer observed, his heart pounding. Rel didn't reply, her focus entirely on navigating the perilous terrain. The ship's hull groaned under the strain, the proximity alarms blaring incessantly. Mercer's eyes darted between the viewport and the holographic map, searching for a safe path through the chaos. "There," he said, pointing to a narrow corridor between two massive wrecks. "If we can make it through, we might lose them completely." Rel adjusted their trajectory, but the scavenger ship, emboldened by their hesitation, surged forward. Plasma fire erupted once more, striking a nearby fragment of debris and sending it hurtling toward them. Mercer's breath caught as the shard clipped their ship, the impact throwing him off balance. "Hull breach in Sector 3, Rel reported, her voice strained. "We cannot sustain this." Mercer scrambled to his feet, his mind racing for solutions. His eyes landed on a control panel displaying an array of unfamiliar symbols. "What does this do?" he asked, pointing. Rel glanced at the panel and hesitated. "It releases destabilized energy. A last resort. It could destroy us as well. If we don't use it, we're dead anyway," Mercer said, his voice resolute. "Do it." Rel hesitated for only a moment before activating the sequence. The ship's core pulsed with a blinding light, and a wave of energy erupted outward, engulfing the surrounding debris. The scavenger ship was caught in the blast, its shields disintegrating as it was torn apart. The force of the explosion propelled Mercer and Rel's ship out of the field, sending it spinning wildly into open space. As the ship stabilized, an uneasy silence settled over them. Mercer exhaled slowly, his hands trembling from the adrenaline. "Well," he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "That was close." Rel turned to him, her crystalline eyes dim but steady. "You are reckless," she said, though there was no malice in her tone. Mercer managed a weak smile. "You're welcome." Rel's gaze lingered on him for a moment before she returned her attention to the controls. The veil of shards faded into the distance, and with it, the immediate threat. But Mercer knew their reprieve was temporary. Whatever lay ahead, it would demand even greater resolve. The silence in the ship was deafening after the chaos of their escape. The faint hum of the engines, now running at minimal power, was the only sound. Mercer leaned back against the nearest bulkhead, exhaustion weighing him down. His breath came in shallow pulls as the adrenaline ebbed, leaving a raw ache in its place. Across the small cabin, Rel worked diligently at a console, her crystalline limbs moving with mechanical precision. She hadn't spoken since their narrow escape from the scavengers. Mercer broke the quiet. "We're alive. That counts for something, right?" Rel didn't look up, her refracted eyes fixed on the streams of alien data scrolling across her display. "Barely," she replied, her voice flat. "The energy released damaged critical systems. Repairs will take time. Time we might not have," Mercer muttered. He ran a hand through his short, sweat-damp hair and pushed himself upright. His legs still felt unsteady, but he ignored the discomfort. "What do you need me to do?" Rel finally turned to face him, her crystalline form shimmering faintly in the dim light. "You do not understand this technology. I must improvise alone." Mercer frowned, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "You can't do everything by yourself, Rel. You said it yourself. We're barely holding on. Let me help." Her multifaceted eyes regarded him for a long moment, their shifting patterns unreadable. Finally, she gestured toward secondary console. "Monitor this display. Alert me if the energy fluctuations exceed the threshold." He nodded and moved to the station, studying the alien symbols and graphs. It was incomprehensible at first glance, but he forced himself to focus. The shapes and colors began to form patterns, and he soon identified the spikes and troughs that likely indicated energy levels. It wasn't much, but it was something to anchor his restless mind. Minutes stretched into hours as they worked in tandem. Rel's movements were fluid and precise, while Mercer's were slower, deliberate. Despite the tension, an unspoken rhythm developed between them. When Rel needed a tool, Mercer handed it to her before she could ask. When Mercer hesitated over an unfamiliar graph, Rel pointed to the relevant data without a word. Slowly, the gap between them seemed to narrow. As the repairs progressed, Mercer's curiosity got the better of him. "You said the Vale of Shards was a graveyard," he began, his voice quiet. "Who were they?" "The ones who came before us." Rel paused, her crystalline fingers hovering over a damaged circuit. "They were wanderers, like you, explorers from distant stars. The Vale is all that remains of their ambitions." Mercer considered her words, his chest tightening. "Do you think that's where I'll end up? Just another wreck drifting in the void?" Rel turned to him, her luminous gaze piercing. "You have already defied the odds by existing. Do not squander that defiance with despair." Her words struck a chord, and Mercer felt a flicker of resolve reignite within him. He straightened in his seat, his jaw setting with determination. "I'm not planning on giving up. Not yet." For the first time, Rel's shimmering form emitted a faint pulse that Mercer interpreted as approval. Hours later, when the repairs were finally complete, Rel activated the main console and ran a systems check. The ship's core hummed steadily, the displays glowing with renewed vitality. "The primary systems are stable," she said. "We can continue our journey." Mercer exhaled, relief washing over him. "Good. Now where are we going?" Rel hesitated, her crystalline body dimming slightly. "To the Council. They must know of your existence." Mercer's relief soured into unease. "And if they decide I'm a threat, or just another artifact for their collection?" Rel's gaze remained steady. "I will speak for you, but you must trust me." Trust. The word hung between them, heavy with implications. Mercer wanted to believe her, but the scars of his isolation and the weight of humanity's extinction made trust a fragile thing. Still, what choice did he have? Alone, he was nothing. Together, they might stand a chance. "All right," he said finally. "I'll trust you. For now." Rel's form brightened, a subtle but unmistakable sign of acknowledgement. "Then we must prepare. The Council will not be easily convinced." As the ship slipped back into the void, Mercer stared out the viewport, the stars blurring into streaks of light. Whatever lay ahead, he knew it would test them both. But for the first time since his awakening, he felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they might carve a new path through the darkness. The Council's seat of authority loomed ahead, a massive construct suspended in the void. Its architecture was unlike anything Mercer had ever seen, an intricate lattice of light and shadow, with towers spiraling into infinity. The station radiated a gravity of its own, not physical but palpable, as if the weight of countless decisions hung in the air around it. Rel guided their ship into a designated docking port. The transition from the cold, silent expanse of space to the station's bustling interior was abrupt. Mercer squinted against the sharp, crystalline glow of the surroundings. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved with purpose, their voices blending into a symphony of languages. For a moment, Mercer felt like an artifact on display, his very existence drawing curious stares and whispered conversations. "Stay close," Rel said, her tone firmer than usual. Her form pulsed with subdued light, a clear signal that she was uneasy. Mercer nodded, his posture stiff, as he followed her through the labyrinthine corridors. Every step heightened his awareness of how alien this place was. The walls seemed alive, their surfaces shifting subtly, as if reacting to his presence. Strange symbols floated in the air, providing guidance he couldn't decipher. Even the air felt different, denser, charged with an energy that set his nerves on edge. They entered a chamber larger than any Mercer had ever been in. The ceiling was a vast, shifting panorama of stars, and the floor beneath their feet seemed to ripple like liquid glass. At the center of the room stood the council. 7 figures arranged in a circle, each one distinct yet unified by an aura of authority that was impossible to ignore. They radiated light, color, and sound in ways Mercer couldn't fully process, their forms defying simple description. Rel stepped forward and inclined her head, a gesture of respect. "Honored Council, I present to you the one known as Mercer, a human from the lost world of Terra." The room fell silent. Mercer felt the weight of countless eyes, not just those of the council, but of the unseen audience watching through whatever advanced means this society possessed. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, his voice steady despite the tension. "My name is Captain William Mercer. I was part of a mission from Earth centuries ago. I don't know why I survived when my people didn't, but I'm here now, and I'm trying to understand what's left of the universe." One of the council members leaned forward, their form shifting into something vaguely humanoid. Their voice resonated in Mercer's mind rather than his ears, each word laced with an undercurrent of power. "You are an anomaly, Mercer of Terra. Your existence poses questions that must be answered. How did you endure the passage of centuries? What knowledge do you carry of your species, long thought extinct?" Mercer hesitated, searching for the right words. "I don't have all the answers. I was in cryosleep, and something went wrong. As for knowledge, I know what we were trying to achieve: exploration, understanding, connection. I don't know if we succeeded, but I hope we made a difference." Another council member, their form a swirling vortex of light and shadow, spoke. "Hope is a fragile thing, is easily crushed under the weight of reality. Why should we not view you as a threat, a remnant of a species that sought to dominate the stars?" Mercer bristled at the accusation, but forced himself to remain calm. "Because that's not who we were. Humanity wasn't perfect, but we were more than just conquerors. We dreamed, we built, we shared. We wanted to be part of something greater." Rel stepped forward, her voice resonating with uncharacteristic fervor. "Mercer has shown resilience, ingenuity, and a capacity for cooperation. These traits should not be dismissed. He is not merely a relic of the past, but a potential bridge to a future we have yet to imagine." The council murmured among themselves, their forms flickering as if caught in a storm of indecision. Finally, the central figure raised a hand, and silence fell once more. "The question is not merely of who you are, Mercer, but of what you represent. A decision must be made. You will undergo the gauntlet of judgment. If you survive, you may earn a place among us. If not, your existence will end here." Mercer's stomach twisted at the ominous proclamation. What exactly is the gauntlet of judgment? "It is a trial," the central figure replied, designed to test the essence of your being. Strength, intellect, and spirit will be measured. You will face the echoes of your past, the weight of your present, and the uncertainty of your future. Prepare yourself, human. The chamber's floor began to shift, the liquid-like surface hardening into a platform beneath Mercer's feet. Rel moved to his side, her crystalline form dim with worry. "This is not what I intended," she said quietly. "The gauntlet is rarely survived." Mercer gave her a grim smile. "Story of my life." As the platform began to descend, taking Mercer away from the council and into the unknown depths of the station, he felt a strange mixture of fear and resolve. Whatever the gauntlet held, he would face it head-on. He had no other choice. The platform descended into an abyss of shimmering light and shadow, a liminal space where time seemed to stretch and compress in waves. Mercer gripped the railing, his jaw clenched, as the air grew heavy with an unfamiliar energy. Rel's final words echoed in his mind. The gauntlet is rarely survived. Yet, beneath the apprehension, a spark of determination burned bright. He was humanity's last representative, its final voice, and he refused to let it end here. The descent halted abruptly, and Mercer stepped onto solid ground. The space around him was surreal, an arena that defied logic. Fragments of landscapes from Earth, lush forests, sprawling deserts, and towering cities, floated in disjointed harmony with alien vistas. The arena pulsed with life, its walls alive with shifting patterns of light and sound, as if the entire structure were sentient. A voice boomed, resonating from every direction. It was the Council's collective voice, a harmonious blend of tones and textures. "The gauntlet of judgment begins. Mercer of Terra, prove your worth." The ground beneath Mercer shifted, and a figure emerged from the mist. It was his old captain, Commander Halford, looking exactly as Mercer remembered from their last mission. The sight stole the breath from his lungs. "Mercer," Halford said, his voice steady but tinged with reproach. "You abandoned us. You were supposed to lead, and you failed." Mercer staggered back, the weight of guilt pressing down on him. "I didn't abandon anyone," he protested. "I tried to save us. The cryosleep malfunctioned. I had no control." Halford's expression darkened. "Excuses won't bring them back. Face your failure." Suddenly, the arena transformed. Mercer found himself on the bridge of his old ship, surrounded by the faces of his long-dead crew. Alarms blared, and warning lights flashed as the ship plummeted toward an uncharted planet. It was the moment he'd relived in countless nightmares. "No," Mercer shouted, his voice raw. "This isn't real." But the pain felt real. The heat of the failing engines, the acrid smoke filling the air, the desperate cries of his crew. His hands moved instinctively over the controls, trying to override the catastrophic system's failure. "You can't save them," Halford's voice echoed, cold and unforgiving. "You never could." Mercer froze, his chest heaving. He closed his eyes and let the chaos wash over him. Then, with a deep breath, he spoke. "I know I can't change the past, but I can honor their memory by fighting for the future." The illusion shattered. The bridge dissolved into light, and Mercer stood alone once more. The Council's voice returned. "You have faced the weight of your past. Now, face the present." The arena shifted again. This time, Rel stood before him, her crystalline form flickering with instability. Around her, shadowy figures emerged, their shapes indistinct but menacing. They spoke in guttural, alien tongues, their intentions clear despite the language barrier. "They doubt you," Rel said, her voice strained. "They see you as a threat, a relic of a destructive species. Prove them wrong." The shadows lunged, their forms twisting into predatory shapes. Mercer's instincts took over, and he moved with a precision born of years of training. But this wasn't just a physical battle. It was a test of resolve. Each shadow seemed to embody a fear, a doubt, a whisper of despair. They taunted him, calling him unworthy, insignificant. But Mercer didn't falter. He fought with everything he had, not just for himself, but for the memory of his crew, for the legacy of humanity, and for the fragile trust he'd built with Rel. When the final shadow dissolved into nothingness, Mercer dropped to his knees, exhausted but unbroken. The Council's voice returned, softer this time. "You have proven your strength and resolve. Now, face the future." The arena shifted one last time. Mercer stood on a barren plain under a sky filled with unfamiliar constellations. In the distance, a single figure approached. It was a child, human in appearance, but with eyes that shimmered like Rel's crystalline form. The child reached out, their small hand glowing with a soft, golden light. "What is this?" Mercer asked, his voice hoarse. "This is possibility," the Council replied. "The potential of what humanity could become. Will you embrace it?" Mercer hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Then, slowly, he reached out and took the child's hand. A surge of warmth and light enveloped him, filling him with a sense of connection he hadn't felt in centuries. For the first time, he saw not just the scars of humanity's past, but the boundless potential of its future. When the light faded, Mercer was back in the council chamber. Rel stood beside him, her form bright and steady. The council regarded him in silence before the central figure spoke. "William Mercer, you have faced the gauntlet and emerged whole. You are not merely a relic of the past, but a harbinger of what may come. You will be granted a place among us, not as a subject, but as an equal." Mercer's breath caught. He looked at Rel, who gave a subtle nod, her crystalline eyes reflecting something that might have been pride. The council continued, "Go now, Mercer of Terra. The stars await your voice." As Mercer and Rel departed the chamber, the weight of the trial began to lift. For the first time, in what felt like lifetimes, Mercer felt a sense of purpose. He was no longer a relic, adrift in the void. He was a bridge between the past and the future, a living testament to humanity's enduring spirit. As the ship departed the station and the stars stretched out before them, Mercer spoke softly, his voice filled with quiet resolve. "Let's see what's out there."